Hi, I'm Rick Rheins, Senior Rabbi of Temple Sinai in Denver, Colorado. This week's Torah portion is Shoftim from chapter 16 through 21 of the book of Deuteronomy. And of all the topics, it focuses on leadership, specifically on the Shoftim, the judges, and then on the Levites and the Kohanim, and then on the Malachim, on the kings. So each of them are reviewed for their authority, but also the limits of their authority, the limits on their behavior. For the shoftim, for instance, the judges, so specifically, do not take bribes, do not be so arrogant to rule unfairly and to your personal advantage over a case, but to be absolutely impartial. For the Levites and the Kohanim, the religious leadership, it says to them, you won't have land. You won't own a land holding in Israel. Your concern will be on that which is sacred, but not on that tangible wealth that is involved with owning material things like land. And so that limits where they will have their leadership in part, that it'll be more to the spiritual and not to the commercial. And then for Malchut, for the kingship. And the king, of course, it's good to be king, as Mel Brooks would say. And yet the Torah says the king also has limits. The king should be very limited in how he behaves towards his people. Again, clamping down on arrogance, making sure that certain behaviors vis-a-vis diplomatic arrangements with other countries, for instance, not to have our men serve for the Egyptians in exchange for cavalry, which he will use then to expand his military reach. So limits on the military aspect of the malchut, of the kingship, but also it says that the king should always have a Sefer Torah, a copy of the Torah in front of him, so that he learns every day that what he's doing is serving the people, that the people don't serve the king, but rather the king serves the people's interest in trying to do the best. So there's division of the judicial to the religious and to the political slash military. That's in the Torah. Obviously, the American division of power gleaned from that when we have our executive branch, our legislative branch, and our judicial branch, all good Torah, right? So in the Mishnah, in Mishnah Avot, chapter 4, it says something quite interesting about these three, about the priests, about the kings, and about the Torah scholars. It says that there are shlosha ketarim, that there are three different keter, or crowns for Israel. And it names them. There's the keter Torah, the crown of study, of being privileged to be immersed in the spiritual learning that rabbis get to do and people in religious study programs get to do. There's it says the Keter Kuhuna, and there's the Keter, or the crown, the glory of the Kuhuna, of those who are privileged to be Levites and Kohanim. And it says the Keter Malchut, and there's the crown, of course, that the kings wear, the crown of being a king, a leader of your people. So those are the three. It says there are three crowns, and these are the three of Torah, of being a Kohen, a priest, and of being the king. But then it concludes that there's a fourth keter that's greater than all of them. It says the Keter Shem Tov, and the crown of having a good name, ole al gabechem. It's over all of the other three. So that there are three crowns, but this character of having a good name, of being a good person, of having a good neshama, a good soul, that's better than all of them. And of course, the commentators have to wrestle with this. What does that mean? First of all, it says that there's three. So how can this fourth one be better than all of them? They say, but look at it. Because the other three are somewhat exclusive. Even the Keter Torah, those who are privileged to have the time, like rabbis do, privileged by the community to say, Rabbi, we want you to study. We want you to read your books and to teach. That's a privilege that is given to us by the community. And not everyone is, unfortunately, privileged to have that. There are people who work so darn hard and who devote themselves to their careers and to their families and to the community in many, many ways that they don't have the time to study Torah to the same extent that rabbis and other teachers get to do. So there's some exclusivity there. Now, everyone can be a rabbi, true, but the community doesn't always afford everyone the opportunity to have that kind of study. So it says that's a keter, which is somewhat limited. Then there's the keter kahuna of those who can be Levites and Kohanim. Well, not everyone can be a Kohen. It's hereditary. You have to be the son of a Kohen, the son of a Levite. It passes from father to son. And no matter how much you're interested in leading a service when there was a temple in existence, unless you were born to a Levitical family, unless you were from a descendant from the Kohanim, you weren't going to be a Kohen. And so that's hereditary and exclusive. It's limited. And it says about the Malchut, about the king. That too is hereditary and exclusive. Not everyone can be king, but being a Shem Tov, being a person with a good name, a good character, being a person who's loving and caring and sensitive and generous with their feelings, who knows that each person out there has their own needs and anxieties and hopes. And that person, the Shem Tov, responds with Tov, with goodness and encouragement and compassion and comfort, all the things that make life truly glorious. They said that's not exclusive. Every person, every man and woman has the opportunity to be a Shem Tov. And that's why it is Ole al Gabechem. It's over all the other crowns, over the crown of Torah, over the of study of being a rabbi, over the crown of being a Kohen, over the crown of being a king. The best of all, being a good person, being someone where they look at you and they go, you're a good neshama. You're a caring, loving person. That is the greatest crown of all. Shabbat Shalom.